Welcome back. This is number 2 for the Chamber of Commerce podcast. So again, I'm Joe Clausen, and you know me maybe from the Pelican Motel. My wife and I are owners there, but it's great to be back in Pelican again. So with this now my second podcast, I have a special guest with me, and we have really kind of met through her work, not necessarily mine. And so Kim Pederson, did I get that right?
You got that close enough.
All right. She wrote an article about economic development in Pelican Rapids, and I felt, I think we're on the same page. So I called her up, and we sat down, had a little coffee, and really talked about things that we see for Pelican. And in similar circumstances, we see things that we believe will bring Pelican forward. So with that, I'm excited to have you join me here today. So go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Hi, Joe. It's
it away.
a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you. I think you being president of the chamber is a great thing. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I just love that. So it was fun to meet you. And as a little history of me, my parents raised 4 girls in Pelican Rapids, and we all went to high school in Pelican, and I married my high school sweetheart, and so we still live around the area. And so we're very vested in the community. It's been good to us and good to our families. And I've watched Pelican evolve over the last few years, having never ventured too far from home. Pelican's evolution has been some by choice, some by circumstance, some by necessity. And now I think Pelican's in just a tremendous time to kind of rebrand itself. And as I was watching in the papers, Lou does such a great job with the Pelican Press, and as I was watching the discussion about the economic development director and what to do about that, and how the city council, has struggled with that decision, and rightly so, it's a big one. I was literally sitting downtown, and I looked out and I saw that beautiful river, and I remember when the town was vibrant, many, many small towns were, and I just thought, it's right in front of our face. The river runs through it. We are surrounded by some of the most beautiful land in the country. The Maplewood State Park, you can't beat it. The lakes, people drive here just for the sheer beauty. I mean, in fact, there were 200 four-wheelers that came through the area this last weekend, and they all went to Vergas and had lunch there, and probably had a few brews along the way, and that's, people come here just for that. And all I could think of was, it's such a natural resource and such a beautiful area, and why aren't we taking advantage of that? To me, the economic plan is about that. It really starts with that natural resource, and I think that is something that you and I kind of agreed on too early on. And I just had to write it down just for my own sanity and to just see if my thoughts seemed reasonable. And then the next thing you knew, I fired it off to Lou, not expecting much to happen. And then when it showed up, well, he actually let me know that it was going to be on the front page of the paper, but I did choke a little on that. But yeah, and that's what prompted our getting to know each other.
Well, I'm glad that you wrote, because I think they say that thoughts clarify themselves when they exit your lips or your fingertips. And being able to write something is a gift. I'm not much of an author. I feel more comfortable as a speaker than I do as a writer. And so I think it's great that you have a gift to be able to do that. So I know that some of the things that we talked about, knowing that, talk is cheap, they say it takes money to buy whiskey. But if you were to say, what positive steps Pelican has taken, and what steps do you think we need to be aware that are on the radar?
Okay, so what positive steps has Pelican taken? I was really, when this economic development director position started being discussed, I started looking through websites, the city council website and the chamber material, and I found it very difficult to determine who was in charge of economic development. It looked to me like there were possibly 2 or 3 entities that were. But what I found so positive was a plan that had been developed. I think you were part of it. A number of other thought leaders in the community and chamber members, city council members, the mayor were involved in putting that document together. And I think it's something like a 2025 resource plan, 2035 actually. It just came out in May of 2022, and it really is an excellent roadmap for what Pelican needs to do in economic development, and it has kind of 5 piers of economic development, you know, the obvious ones: housing, jobs, tourism, that type of thing. And I just feel like it's an excellent roadmap. So I think Pelican has done a number of really good things to take the steps that it needs to take. But now we're at a really pivotal point, Joe, and that economic development hot potato seems to be somewhat in the air. And I don't know, is that your opinion on that too?
Well, I agree with the fact that there's organizations that I think are branded to do something about it. But again, it's like you say, it comes back to function. And so we have a city EDA, we have a Pelican Rapids area EDC, Economic Development Corporation. We have the Chamber of Commerce, of which now we're hoping to continue to share vision, build that up so we can get a broader platform and really develop business health. Because if we want to shoulder larger projects, your businesses need to be healthy, need to be strong, need to be moving forward. Mm-hmm. Everything that we're doing that's out there, I think all fits within this plan. The question is, who's going to do it?
Right.
Who's going to lead?
Right.
Is it an individual as an economic development director, which at this point in time is probably 2 years away? Is it going to be some other coalition or group that is going to be able to take that and step forward, who already has vested interests in the community? Mm-hmm. To me, I like the idea of someone with vested interest, because if someone comes in from the outside, they may have a degree, and that's useful. I don't downplay that at all. But the question is, if the next opportunity in the town over pays a little bit more, what's to keep them here?
How do they prioritize Pelican above other towns that they may also serve?
Other opportunities, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's when it's no one's specific responsibility, nothing really gets done. And the accountability for that, I believe, is a key. It's a key word in my vocabulary. Accountability. Who's responsible? Who do the questions go to? Who, if somebody wants to know something, who do you talk to? There's a planning commission too, as I see it. 3 or 4 parties involved in economic development. That's wonderful. That means a lot of people are excited about it. But at the end of the day, who carries that plan forward? Who makes that plan? Mm-hmm. It's extensive. If you know, if the watchers out there haven't taken a look at it, it's impressive. It's online. And I think you can also check a copy out, if I'm not mistaken, at the city.
Probably at City Hall. So what do you say to people who just say, you know what, it's not a big deal. Let's just wait until after, 2025 street project is done. Let's just let it chill till then. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And here's the problem with that. I think the timing is now. And here's why. The town is going to be torn apart with the street projects that are going to happen, the lighting system that likely will happen. The businesses are going to withstand a fair amount of upheaval, if you will, for the next 2 years for sure. So after this is done, my opinion is that we need to be wheels up and ready. We need to be ready to run with a plan. But that plan should be in place now. We need to start planning today for that time when we have a beautiful new downtown. We have great new lights. We'll have a new river, all the bike paths, the walking paths, the canoe plans, and Pelican Pete. People, we want to be ready for that day when that day happens. And in order to be ready, we need to start now.
Correct. I think that that's ideal. Because if you look at the planning for the street project, if you talk with the DOT guys, DNR guys, all these people, they plan multi-years out.
Right.
And I
Right.
think with Pelican, we need to begin to emulate some of that. We start planning for where we want to go.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting and thinking it's going to happen, I think we need to kind of roll up our sleeves and put some effort into making it happen. And it's like you say, it's one thing to make a plan, but it's a completely another deal to stick with it.
Right. To implement it, to make
put
it happen.
feet under it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think needs to be implemented?
Well, I can't imagine that the city and all the stakeholders went through all that work to have it sit on a shelf, right? Because I'm sure it was expensive in terms of resources, but time commitment. And the city council, as I understand it, approved the plan. So I would love to know, what does that mean? When the city says we've approved the plan, here's the plan now.
Right.
We're going to implement this. Who is that? Is that the city council? Do they even know that? Is it the mayor? Is it the economic development? So I think right now it really needs to be determined. A, is that the plan? Do we, I mean, there's a lot of things happen and people aren't really committed to, oh, I didn't really mean for that to happen. No, I mean, the city invested in it. Everybody signed off on it. Let's go. Let's take that plan. Let's make that happen. But I don't know who that is, Joe. And I maybe somebody does. I don't, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet. Communication is key, and I don't know. Do you remember Rex Haugen?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I had him for maybe health or something. But what I remember most about him is that he always said things 3 times. He'd have the players in a huddle, and he would say it. Joey, you're getting the ball. Joey, you're getting the ball. Joey's getting the ball. And everybody would walk out there, because people don't. The first time, the second time, the third time, you do have to keep repeating that message. So once that communication message is clear, it's got to be said over and over, and it can't be left up to the press. It's not their job to communicate strategy.
Correct. I think the press does a great job, but I think they're meant to report the news, not create.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
I think that that's a good role. I think we've been well served by the press and what they've been able to do.
They're the best paper around.
But yet they can't create jobs. They can't create housing. And so when looking at the broad picture, and you're talking branding, what are your thoughts about branding?
Well, branding can be a wonky word that a lot of people hear and don't really think about. You have a brand. I have a brand. This Pelican School has a brand. Pelican Rapids has a brand. And I always say that the best brand that I've heard of out there is Harley Davidson. When you say Harley Davidson, you immediately get a visual, you get a feeling, you get a thought, and that's been done by Harley Davidson. They've done that on purpose, very purposeful message, advertising, their entire strategy, the price of their product. It's all built in to support the brand. Coca-Cola is another great brand. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to maintain that brand and reputation. And people draw a conclusion quite quick about something. They draw quick conclusions about people, and they draw quick conclusions about a town. And if you drive through Pelican the first time, somebody's going to get an impression. Some of that's wonderful, but some of it isn't. And you fix the things that aren't, because investors come through, they will make a decision quite quickly on the health of that town by the health of the businesses and the health of the streets. We're going to have a great looking town. We need to have great looking businesses who are sustainable. And that work needs to start now, because those investors, as they're coming through, whether they're driving a camper or a motorcycle, or they're purposely here as a part of a economic development group or an investment group, they're going to come through and they're going to make a judgment, and that's going to be our brand. And I think now it's the time to rebrand it as the natural resource that it really is. It's not like we have to do something that we're not already. We are all those good things. We are those people, but we got to show it, tell it, and tell it again.
I think that's awesome. And thank you for being willing to kind of share that wisdom, because I too agree that Pelican has a brand, and I think we need to promote it. We need to get it out in front. I think we need to develop where we want to be and we want our children to be.
Yeah.
Because they say you don't plant a tree for yourself. You plant a tree for your children. And our generation,
Yeah.
my generation, I want to plant a tree that my children can enjoy the shade, they can enjoy the fruit, and the benefits of what we're doing.
So let me ask you a question, Joe, and maybe you haven't thought about it, and maybe you have. What do you think needs to happen for economic development in town? Am I off base when I say it feels a little scattered?
No, I do believe that, well, I'm going to back up a moment here and I'm going to kind of dig into what my next podcast is going to be about. And that's really going to be about our responsibility to finances. Now, that may sound like a big deal, but me, come out of a religious background, if you look at the parable of the talents, so the king, he had the resource. So we've been given incredible resources.
Yeah,
So now you had really two types of servants. There were three total, but two types of servants. And one got busy and they doubled. And the other one hid. And he said he was fearful. I believe that Pelican has got a two-sided coin. One is we're fearful of really being able to make Pelican great. And I believe the other side of that coin is pride, saying, oh, no, it's not really my place to do it. It's not the season. It's not the time to make investment.
Yeah.
And so next week I kind of want to expound on that. But I believe that there is resources available in Pelican Rapids. I believe it's lying in our bank accounts. I believe it's in the skill of our hands, in the thoughts that we have. And I think if people are willing to say, you know what, I'm planting a tree, not for me, but for my children.
Yep. Yep. And I think that has gotten lost in our generation. I think if you go back to the founding families of Pelican, who there's a handful of them still around, they invested in Pelican because they knew they wanted their children to make a home here.
Yes.
And they invested in Pelican for the long haul, that civic pride, that sense of community. I do think that's changed. You know, people are pretty mobile, and I understand that, and I have respect for that. But at the same time, I think we've lost something without that feeling of this is my town, this is my home, and I'm going to contribute to its future for our children. I couldn't agree more, Joe. I couldn't agree more.
And I think that's really the note that we want to leave this on. And consider this thought. What is your investment in Pelican Rapids? I think we've had enough consumerism. We understand what it is. I think it's time to say, this is what we want to build. This is how we want to change and transform our community culture to be one that reflects, I am thinking and considering someone else. So, all right, with that, we're going to be closing up. So remember, share, repost, tag. If you have questions or comments, you can Facebook, you can use the messenger, you can use it directly to me, you can do it on the chamber site, either one. If you have questions and you want to call, my number is 218-234-6002. You can call me. I'll probably even answer Pelican Motel because that's where I'm working. That's my investment. So we do want to hear from you. And we as a chamber, as groups, as individuals who want to see Pelican grow, we want to encourage you to take this opportunity and to move forward for Pelican. Thank you.